Step 7 is my favorite step in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. Step 6 is the most important step in the program, in my opinion, because it takes you to step 7. And step 7 to me is surrender to God and surrender to the AA program. It's based on humility. You know, in the book it talks about not only is the idea of humility often intensely disliked, it's often misunderstood. Most of us haven't even a nodding acquaintance with humility as a way of life. And when you think of that nodding acquaintance that most of us don't even have as a way of life, I like to use an example that I made up. You know, you're walking down 17th Ave on a beautiful day like today. You got 5,000 people on either side of the street. You look across the street, your eyes lock with some stranger you don't know, and you guys nod on acknowledgement. That's it. Most of us haven't even that much, measure of humility as a way of life. And unless I develop much more of this precious quality than may be just required for sobriety, I don't have a chance of becoming truly happy, and I won't have enough faith in God to meet any emergency in life. Nathan alluded to one of the best promises in all of the literature in Alcoholics Anonymous. With the attainment of greater humility, I can have the true freedom of my human spirit. To me, that's the best promise in all of the books that we have. But the level of humility I need for that is the third phase of humility. The often intensely disliked version of humility is humiliated. No one wants to be humiliated. And then one of the, other versions of humility, which is the second phase in my opinion, is I'm humbled through pain. Not most of us aren't into suffering to gain in humility. It might be all right for the saints, but it sure the fuck doesn't appeal to me. But unless I go through that pain and suffering, I won't hit the third phase. And the third phase is that genuine desire to seek and do God's will. But the book talks about it's usually missing. And as we kind of walk through these phases of humility, and we get into this psychic change that is so paramount for me to stay sober, but even more so, it's paramount for me to have a good life. And it is that step 7 correlation, where step 7 correlated to tradition 7. In tradition 7, Alcoholics Anonymous is self-supporting, declining outside contributions. Well, the correlation to the steps is I need to be self-supporting. I need to be so good within myself that I decline things from the outside of me to give me my self-confidence. But most of my life, I sought my own self-confidence through things from outside of me. And it ties me into step 3. I'm a victim of a delusion, of a lie. I'm a victim, I've been tricked of this delusion that I can pry, grab happiness and satisfaction in my life from things outside of me. And I need to smash that delusion and then understand that God can give me the happiness. And where is God? Well, in We Agnostic, it tells me exactly where God is and how I find him. That's the purpose of the chapter. The fundamental idea of God is within every man, woman, and child, often obscured with calamity, pomp, and worship of other things. So God is within me, and it is the essential component of love. That's the fundamental idea of God. But it's obscured, it's blocked off with calamity, life's happenings, pomp, myself, and worship of other things. And when I think about those 3 things that block me off, they're all ingrained behaviors that I learned from society at large. My parents taught me a lot of those lies. And when I look at my own life and I look back in my life, did any of those things ever really fill that hole inside of me? No. They brought me temporary relief. They brought me some benefit for a while. And then the shine always wore off. And then I was looking for the next accomplishment, or the next woman, or the next, status, or the next amount of money. And it never solved the problem of the hole inside of me. So as I go through the process of this personality change, because I want to be recovered, and I don't mean from the substance anymore, I want to be recovered from me, because I understand that I'm the root of my troubles. But the root of these troubles come from what I've learned in my life. Because society told me all these things are going to make me happy, but they never did. So I got to lose these ideas. And as I go through the change process in step 6, and what step 6 is about, the principle behind it is willingness. And the understanding of step 6 is very important in this program, because to me it's the most important step. Any person capable of enough willingness and honesty to try repeatedly step 6 on all his faults without reservation has indeed come a long way spiritually. So basically what I'm doing is I'm trying to level up. I'm trying to get closer to God. I'm trying to gain in levels of consciousness. Because when I change my perspective, or when I change my altitude perspective, my attitude changes. So I change my altitude and my attitude will change. And as I seek this different type of life, I'm going to read something here. It's kind of pertinent to what we're talking about today. So this is out of a different book. So we do not want to be whole if it means being alone. And we do not want enlightenment if it requires living as an Aztec. So deep within our unconscious, we feed the energy of the saboteur, the part of ourselves that maintains our shadow pattern and fuels our fragmentation, our defects. We fear our own empowerment because it represents changes in our lives that would remove us from the warmth of those who love us for being vulnerable. And we fear being empowered because then we can no longer claim that we are not responsible for our own actions. Although we want to be around a person who is enlightened or consciously working on becoming enlightened, we deeply fear the high price our own enlightenment will make us pay. Assuming personal responsibility for the quality, not only for our actions, but also from our attitudes, is a lifetime discipline. We cannot rest in the harbor of blame, so we unconsciously and sometimes consciously encourage our own weakness and hold on to our fears. As long as becoming enlightened represents isolation for us, we will shun our own empowerment. The fear of enlightenment, the fear of gaining and moving into a realm that we don't understand is fearful, because I've been ingrained with living in this other world, and the fear of the unknown and becoming actual responsible for my actions in my life and doing what's right is a lifetime discipline. Then I can't use the excuse of my humanness and my defects and all of these other things. And it's scary. It's scary. So people turn away from it. And then they take a softer, easier road. And I always say, do what's fucking easy, make your life hard. Or do what's hard and make your life easier. And step 7 is surrender to God. And it's God consciousness is what it is. It is, I'm living with God. The most profound result of all was our change in our attitude towards God. He's not a bush league pinch hitter anymore. He becomes the fucking main objective. And then I start living with my true inner resource, love. And then I start realizing, holy fuck, I'm actually getting what I really want. But it's a hard transition because it doesn't make sense sometimes as you go through it, which is the line in the book talks about it. Common sense thus becomes uncommon sense. It's a hard trudge, man. It's not easy. But in my opinion, the gifts are amazing. And it's a road, if you really want that freedom of the human spirit, if you want the nourishing ingredient that can give you serenity, if you want the faith that can meet any emergency, if you want the priceless gift of peace of mind, it comes through the third phase of humility, and that's the surrender to my higher power. And I don't mean Jesus Christ, and I don't mean Buddha. I mean the fundamental idea of my own truth deep down in me, because God gave me the guidance system. And when I get in touch with that guidance system and I actually listen to it, I never need to set a boundary in my life, because this sets every boundary. I don't need to set anything, because this sets it all. And then I listen to it at all costs. And it doesn't come from the mind, it comes from the heart. And it's all in the book. So if you're new here, you're struggling, you're coming back, and you got a problem with drugs or alcohol, this is where we get her done. But we don't get her done by sitting on our asses doing fuck all. There's some work to do, and there's some pain to endure. But that's part of the meaning of life, isn't it? Being able to... What security do I actually get in my life? There's no actual security. The only real security I get in life is my ability to contend with life and get through these teachings. And it's not trials, they're teachings, because it's teaching me about who I actually am, and it allows me to dig deep. So it's a gift to me. Life doesn't happen to me, it happens for me. I don't go through anything. We grow through everything. And that is the change in the attitude, right? So yeah, thanks for asking me to share.